firstly, thank you for the invitation to talk. It's a pleasure to be here. We've been in Morocco now since 2019. So we've invested in this country. We've invested in the French African, North African region. This partner event is part of that process to get closer to our customers, build relationships, improve our engagement. It's been going on for a number of years, so we've been doing these very successfully. I've attended many of them very successfully over the past few years, and we'll have over 100 people this evening, which is showing how much we are growing. For example, in our key print categories, we are number one in the ink tank range, and I think that's reflected by the number of people that will be coming tonight. Similarly, on projection, we have lots of amazing opportunities to discuss with customers. We've been very successful. We have a very high market share in Morocco and the wider region on projection technology, for example. And the key message would be that we are continuing to invest in this country. We have an office here with just under 30 people. We're here to serve you, to understand your needs. And also, as this is an organization that is based in the Middle East Africa region, we're here to listen to you, to get your feedback about future product planning that we can then talk to the factory. Epson owns all of its key technologies, its core technologies. Therefore, we're able to influence the product planning to help better serve customers in this region. I mentioned that Epson manufactures its core technologies, and this is the key around Epson 35. That Japanese manufacturing, we still believe, is at the pinnacle of manufacturing. Obviously, we're competing against China, against Europe, against Korea, for example. We believe very strongly in research and development. We invest over $300 million every year in R&D, and in fact, we have investments considerably higher than that in some of our opportunities that involve recycling, upcycling, that kind of thing. So it's about getting back to our engineered excellence. It's also about looking and investing in other areas that could be interesting. So, for example, we're involved in the upcycling process of alloy materials so that we're able to put them back into the manufacturing process. A company called Atmix is a good example, and that's about the art and science of manufacturing. This is the principle of Epson 35, which is going into continuing to invest, but going further into areas like sensing technology, as well as finished goods technology such as printing and projectors. There's a lot more to Epson than you might see from just the finished goods you see in the shops. There's a huge amount that we do in terms of in the supply chain, silicon wafer supply chain manufacturing, all these things. This is the principle of Epson 35. It's getting back to our core roots of being an innovative engineering company. Yeah, that just referring to what I said before about that $300 million of annual research and development, that's just a basic amount of money. We also invest more in specific areas. So I mentioned a little bit about that Atmix company before. That's one that we've invested heavily in opening up a new plant, so over $30 million in that. And this region itself that we incorporated only just under 2 years ago, headquartered in Dubai, but it's an office and an operation that runs in this region. That is a big investment as well. So we have over 300 people in this region. I mentioned before we have just under 30 people in Morocco, and of course this is also the investment. We have 2 demonstration facilities, one in Dubai, one in Johannesburg. These are big investments as well, 1,000 meters squared, 500 meters squared. We have a demonstration facility here in Casablanca, for example. All of these things are investments that we will do to grow the revenue in the future. I'm always impressed when I come to Morocco. Every time it seems to get even more exciting. I really enjoy coming here, and I see how it's modernizing almost in between visits. I come here about every 6 months, and I have been doing so for a number of years. Every time I come, they have even more investment. We met with the Minister of Education yesterday, for example, here in Rabat. And we were so impressed by not just the vision that they have for education in Morocco, but also the fact that they've achieved so much in terms of improving the education needs of children. And that's something that we've been involved with, because if you go into a lot of Moroccan schools, you'll see Epson technology in the classroom. And this is a good example of partnership. Epson is very strong in areas like education, not just on projection, but also print technology. And Morocco is really at the head of the curve of understanding this. So when we look at the amount of projectors in schools in Morocco compared to other African countries, it's very, very high. And that is a very good example. Similarly, when we look at the amount of Soho SMB type printers that we sell in Morocco, it's also very, very high. So I believe that Morocco is a country, there's a lot of investment in this country, both investment from the government but also foreign investment. And I believe that this is just the beginning of this incredible story. You have the World Cup coming in a few years' time. There's a lot of infrastructure projects built around this. I'm just incredibly impressed by the education, universities, colleges, schools that we have in this country. So you can see that the next generation are going to be very highly educated, and then they'll build this next Morocco for the next 10, 20, 30 years. Well, let me answer those two separately. So first of all, environmental commitment. We are a Japanese company that is headquartered in a beautiful part of Japan. They call it the Japanese Alps. So it's in the middle of Japan near Nagano Prefecture. So environment is fundamental to us since 1942, since we were created, because everybody lives and works in this beautiful part of Japan. So therefore, if I give you the example of our print technology is a cold technology. It uses precision core micro-piezo technology. It doesn't heat. So it's not, unlike laser, it doesn't heat, doesn't have a drum fuse, there's no heat in the print head either. Why am I telling you this? Because what it means is that we can reduce the cost by about 90%. Because the cold technology, therefore, it doesn't require as much electricity. Now, this is just an example I've given you. I mentioned about the Atmix company before, which is part of this sort of recycling parts of silicon wafer and other materials that go then back into the manufacturing supply chain. We have a paper lab, which is a paper recycling machine, so it can have this sort of closed loop environment, so you can print paper at low cost, as I mentioned before, up to 90%, but also then you can recycle it. So and then it comes out as new paper again. So this is all around lowering the environmental cost. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to increase productivity, but do it in a sustainable way. You mentioned about AI. AI, we're already implementing some of our manufacturing processes today. It does take time with AI. There's a lot of cybersecurity around AI as well, but it is something that's very, very much not just on our radar, but something we're already actively doing within manufacturing, because it can really improve productivity in manufacturing as well. It can reduce a lot of defects and these kind of things. But we're looking at AI to transform our operations over the next 5, 10, 15 years. It does take time. Everybody wants to talk about it. So time to execution is important with AI. We're using AI every day in our offices and our operations here in the Middle East. And we've reduced thousands of man hours to seconds in some cases with process. It's a little bit episodic at the moment. We want to create a story, and that story will be over the next few years with AI. Well, the thing that inspires me the most is the people that I work with, not just the people within the company, but also the people that I get to meet. I love the travel. We are in over 80 countries in our region. It's the biggest in terms of number of countries in the world. And it's always a privilege and a pleasure to visit so many wonderful places. I think that's great. So what excites me about technology, I think working within technology and being in tech leadership, I think it's the pace of change, which is amazing. But what is interesting about technology is it moves very fast, but there are still traditional technologies that continue to exist. You know, we're still watching in an audio-visual way that's actually quite similar to previous generations. We're still printing, for example, but we're just doing it in a more efficient way, and we're doing it with less environmental cost. So, for example, we do garment printing. So if you get some very, very nice, expensive dresses from Italy, some of them will be printed on Epson technology, but we've reduced huge amount of water waste by using dry fiber technology, for example, or using digital printing. So what I'm enjoying is that we're taking technology and we're making it even more productive, and we're reducing the environmental cost. Because everybody talks about the environment, and therefore I think we need to look at the environment with technology, and not just say technology for the sake of with no cost. What we can say is, yes, this is Epson's core philosophy. Let's produce really interesting technological advancements, but let's not do it at the expense of society. Let's not do it with an environmental cost. And that's what I like about working at Epson, because they balance technology, productivity with environmental cost.